for the numbers to level off before we get moving. Looks like it's leveling off now. So, okay, everyone, welcome to the last meeting of the year, December meeting, Safety Council meeting. We're going to go ahead and get started with PAR with pledge, or with the prayer, and then we'll do pledge and get this thing going. So PAR, it's all you.
All right, let us bow. Father in heaven, we love you. We thank you, Lord. We thank you for just this year, even though it's been a year that, Lord, there's a lot of obstacles that have went on. We just ask that, Lord, you continue to cover us, Lord, as we go into this holiday, as we are in this holiday season coming up here. And Father God, we ask that you bless all of those that have lost loved ones through this year, Lord. We ask that you continue to strengthen them around this season. We lift this Safety Council up to you, Lord. We thank you for all the leadership and the variety of things that they bring to the companies and the agencies, Lord, for safety. We ask that you continue to move in a mighty way in all of our lives. It's in your name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, PAR. Good words. Pledge. Hopefully everyone can see and hear.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which
All right. Okay, so just a couple quick announcements on my end. Just a reminder that we've been doing this for a year now, so just a reminder that there's a Q&A box and a chat box function at the bottom of your screen. So if you have any questions to the steering committee or the speaker today, please don't hesitate to use those functions. We will be monitoring those throughout the meeting. So if you do have a question, please bring those up, and we will ask the speaker, or we will do our best to answer. Quick little updates on our end. You should have seen, hopefully you have seen an email come through on Safety Leader of the Year nominations. It's come through a few times. There's a link on there for a PDF to fill out. So if you have someone in your organization that's showing exemplary leadership and safety, please fill those nominations out. The deadline is this Friday, December 17th. So please get those nominations in. We will review them as a steering committee and vote on them on who would be the best of the best. So please get those in as soon as possible so we can get those voted on and get them announced to everyone, announce the winner. Last little announcement I have is just a continued reminder that these PowerPoints, as long as the speaker shares them, are up on the Safety Council website. So if you miss one or need to go back and review one, please go to that website, to the Safety Council website, and those are at your fingertips that you can review if you've missed something. So that's all of my announcements. So I'm going to turn the floor over to Jim Pellegrino for BWC announcements.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming out to Safety Council this morning. Just a few quick announcements here. Make you aware that BWC has a new platform for sending out mass emails. Now, the Division of Safety and Hygiene, who I work for, typically doesn't do that, but the Bureau does. So be aware that you're going to see a new extension on our mass emails, and it is legitimate. I'm going to put that in the chat so you're just aware of it, but it's basically going to end with @public.govdelivery.com. So it's just a new platform we're using for mass emails. If you're a public employer, be aware that if you're participating in the industry-specific safety program, the deadline to complete your activities, your loss prevention activities, is the end of this month. So please be aware of that. For public employers, city, state, county type employers, that could be a significant amount of money. But if you don't complete the program, you just don't get the rebate. So be aware of that. We have to announce that we are having our 92nd annual Safety Congress. So Ohio Safety Congress and Expo will be virtual again this year. Mark your calendars. It's going to be March 9th and 10th. Highly encourage you to check that out. As usual, we're going to have a variety of topics, a lot of good speakers. You get to pick which presentations you listen to. You're going to do it from the comfort of your home again this year. No driving to Columbus. Again, that program's good for a lot of our rebate programs as well. So as far as earning activities, so be aware of that. But I encourage everyone to check that out. If you want to be an exhibitor, you're invited to apply to be included in the new enhanced digital expo. So again, there is going to be an expo where exhibitors can display their wares. So be aware of that if you're interested in being an exhibitor. Again, you can check that out now, and I'll put the link in the chat so you have access to that. Also keep an eye out for the return of the Medical and Health Symposium coming virtually. That's going to be April 7th through 9th. The theme is comprehensive care for injured workers. Again, it's going to be virtual online. It's a free symposium, just like the Safety Congress. It's going to feature sessions for healthcare practitioners, their staff, and legal professionals. So it's focused on that audience. As far as our virtual training, I'm sure you're aware at this point, we're not doing any in-person classroom training. It's all virtual. This Thursday, we have a class on hazard communication. It's a half-day class. And again, all these classes are free. You pay for it as part of your premiums. That's from 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. this Thursday. And that's one of the programs OSHA cites, always in the top 10. So if OSHA comes out, typically something they're going to ask you about HAZCOM program. We have a class on electrical safety and electrical safe practices. That is a 4-day class. This is great for maintenance folks or people who are might work on live electric or be exposed to live electric. That's going to be from 9:30 a.m. to 1:35 p.m. Tuesday through Thursday. It's January 11th through the 13th. Highly recommend that class. We also have a training on crane rigging and signal person duties. That's January 19th. That's a 2-day class, 9:30 to 12:45 p.m. each day. And then finally, on January 27th, we have a class on OSHA record keeping. This is the time of year you start thinking about OSHA record keeping, making sure you have everything in line, because you're going to have to post that summary. So be aware of that. And then you have to submit that summary to OSHA as well in March. So highly recommend that class if you're responsible for OSHA record keeping. We also have our 1 hour or more longer webinars that are upcoming. We have one on Tuesday, January 11th on prevention through design, taking chance out of the equation. So you're more setting up the workstation rather than trying to get the folks to work around hazardous conditions. So highly recommend. That's a 2-hour webinar. It's from 10 a.m. to noon on January 11th. We have another webinar. This one's on OSHA record keeping. It's not as long as the half-day class. It's only well, it looks like it's 1.5 hours, and that's January 20th. And then we have a webinar on workers' compensation and how safety affects small business profitability. So why it's important to have a good safety program for your bottom line. And that's January 25th. All those you sign up through the BWC Learning Center from our webpage. You can scroll down from the opening webpage to events calendar, and you'll see those in there as well with links on how to register. If you have difficulty, let me know. Those are all my talking points. Thanks again for coming out to Safety Council. Merry Christmas to everybody and Happy New Year. We'll see you on January. Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. With that said, now we're going to introduce our speaker for today, Lisa Pfeiffer. Lisa works to provide injury prevention educational programs across the state of Ohio under the Extension umbrella, coordinates educational activities for first responders involved in agricultural safety, rescue, and disaster, and serves as a liaison to the state agencies. Additionally, she provides educational outreach for the Ohio Agri-Ability, a USDA NIFA funded grant project of OSU and nonprofit partner Easter Seals. The project assists people with disabilities employed in agriculture and provides practical education and assistance to promote independence in agricultural production and rural living. Lisa enjoys working with the agricultural community. She grew up in Crawford County, Ohio, where her family still runs a family farm. Lisa, the floor is now yours.
Thank you and good morning. It's a pleasure to be here and to be invited to speak before your group. And I've been invited today to talk about cold stress and the cold environment in the workplace. Overlaps very well with my little bit more typical audience of the farming population and those that are out on farms. So I am by no means an expert, but I hope that you'll be able to walk away with a number of things that will help you and help you with your workforce today. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Can everyone see? Can somebody let me know?
Yeah, we
Okay.
can see it, or I can see it. So I think we should be good.
Okay, thank you. So, like I said, they asked me to talk about cold weather and cold weather exposure in the workplace and working environments. So that's what we're going to cover today. I'm from Ohio State University, from the extension arm of the university, and I work in agricultural safety and health program, and we do outreach on behalf of the university across the entire state. We work directly with county extension offices and do programming and travel through all the counties to deliver that. And I, in fact, just returned last night from Versailles at about midnight from a program that we did on safety there. But today what we want to talk about is those weather-related traumas and how they affect the body, and then look at some of the things that contribute to cold injuries, things that workers and employers both can do to help with reduction and preventative mechanisms and first aid components as well. So I'd like to start the morning off by having you just kind of think back through your lifetime and think about, do you have a memory of your own body reacting to extreme cold? And in that, do you recall what parts of your body were you working? Were you maybe and enjoying extracurricular or recreation activity outdoors, and you remember cold? And with that, do you associate wetness, or do you associate certain parts of your body that were the most cold? And I just want you to think over that, kind of hold on to that memory as we go through today's presentation, and you can kind of see what things were at work and why you had that experience. If you look here at what they reported in 2020 that caused the most deaths, we have winter weather that leads the cause here. So when we look at weather types of events that impact humans, we can look to winter weather being a part of that top three generally almost all the time. So you also will see heat pop into this top three as well on occasion. But here in 2020, we have winter weather caused the most fatalities, then tornadoes and floods. So cold related injuries can happen in even mild temperatures if you are not used to having colder temperatures. So even in milder climates, when the temperature shifts, we can see cold related injuries start to happen to folks. And it can happen with very limited exposure. The effects of cold related injuries increase when you add wetness or dampness to the equation, as well as then when you add wind to the equation. And essentially cold stress occurs by driving the skin temperature down, and then eventually that leads to your internal temperature as well following suit. So a couple of the common illnesses and injuries related to cold stress are, number one, trench foot, and then we'll cover also frostbite and hypothermia. Trench foot can happen just from having wet feet, essentially. So you see here, you think about when you've been in a water environment or in the tub too long, your feet kind of shriveling up. Well, that trench foot is that kind of reaction taken to a much more extreme. It's somebody who it can happen even at temperatures as low as 60 degrees. And so it's a prolonged period of someone having wet, damp feet, shoes, socks, working in wet environments, and that prolonged exposure to wetness. And what you'll see is swelling of the foot, redness. It can create pain and leg cramps, and then down into some tingling and prickling and numbness. So first aid for that is just to remove those wet shoes and boots and socks, get the feet dry, and then to elevate them and avoid walking on those feet. Frostbite is the next cold related stressor that can happen to the body, and that is most commonly happens to your outer extremities first. So your body, when it's trying to work to stay warm, will start to work on your core of your body and keeping the core components warm. And so what happens is it reduces the heat and movement to your outer extremities. So if you're in extremely cold weather, what you'll notice, and when I asked you to kind of remember that experience of coldness that you have in a memory, a time when you were extremely cold, you probably experienced that either your fingertips or your toes, your ears, your nose, any of those far-reaching outer extremities are most likely to be hit by that. And you can experience numbness and tingling, aching. And then if you see this not very pleasant picture here on the screen, you kind of get that waxy skin look, and it can be bluish and pale off to the end side of those toes there. For first aid for frostbite, you want to make sure that you get the person to a warm shelter, that if it is your toes or feet, that you try not to have that person walk, that you try to assist them or move them to warmth in a vehicle or something like that, where they don't have to put pressure on those feet and toes. You can immerse the affected area in warm but not hot water. You don't want to use hot water because that numbness can create a lack of knowledge in temperature, and you can cause burning to the skin. So you want to use warming types of things, not extreme heat. And then make sure to warm the affected part of the body, but not with massage or rubbing. You just want to get it covered. If it's feet, you get the wet clothing off and you get that covered. And you can also use warm blankets and then tent something over it to kind of keep the vapor from escaping. So you keep the warmth in that area to warm their skin more rapidly. So we get into hypothermia after that, and we look at some of the early symptoms of hypothermia will be that you just shivering and fatigue. If you're working in partners, you might notice if somebody has any kind of loss of coordination or missteps, that might be a sign that they are getting into a danger zone and that you should take a break and get warmed up. Confusion and disorientation. So having people in pairs is also helpful for spotting hypothermia for some of those signs. And then you see here some of the later symptoms then increase into, you'll see nose shivering and the later symptoms in hypothermia, and the skin starting to get blue. We can look to see if you're noticing any dilation in the pupils, and then slow pulse and breathing. So those are all indications that you have somebody that's in dire need of help, and getting them the first aid to get them warmed up, getting medical assistance to them. So here's some of the first aid steps for that. When you're dealing with hypothermia, getting that wet clothing off, working on warming the core, the center of the body. And you can use skin to skin contact. You can use an electric blanket, things like that. Dry layers of warmth, warm beverages if the person is conscious. You don't want to be trying to give warm beverages to anyone that isn't conscious. You will do more harm. So thinking about where you have that warm shelter, what area you can move a person to get them out of that cold space. We do have some contributing factors that we know if the work environment or types of things that employees have to combat. So if you're dealing with any circulation problems or other medical conditions like diabetes, they can contribute to increased risk for any of these cold stressors. If you are dehydrated, the use of alcohol and tobacco can also add to cold stress kicking in sooner. And then we need to look to the work environment and the labor that's being exerted. So physical exhaustion can play into it, and then adequate clothing. So making sure that you are prepared when you go into this environment. So some of the tips that you want to give workers is to make sure that they're layering. 3 layers is recommended. You want something close to your skin that will wick that moisture away. So we're looking at fabrics like wool, silk, and synthetics. And then you want another layer on top of that layer that will keep the core warm, a more insulating layer. And then the third layer, you want something that's going to shed any wetness. So if you get any rain or it's snowing, something that will keep that at bay and keep the rest of those layers relatively dry. So you want your goal is to keep your skin dry by having wicking material closest to the skin and having layers that allow for that evaporation and to perspiration to leave the layers. Keeping hydrated, going into the workday hydrated, but continuing to hydrate. Even in cold weather, you need to hydrate. Looking for scheduling the most work that you can during the core of the day when it tends to be warmer, those central hours of the day. Just, kind of the opposite of heat. You want to, when it's hot outside, you want to be looking at those early and late times to do the most physically exhausting labor. And then when it's cold, you want to be pushing that work to the center of the day, to the times when you're going to get the warmest weather, and avoid the most cold. And then avoid sitting still. Keep movement in your legs and arms will keep the blood flowing and keep you in better condition for avoiding those cold injuries. Making sure you take scheduled breaks out of the environment, and setting also that reasonable pace for strenuous work. So having a sense of what kind of physical labor is going to be required to complete the task, and kind of setting up a schedule for either a rotation in and out of the hot and cold with another worker, or a break time to be able to do that. And then just some of the, common things that will keep all of us healthy, just staying in good physical shape, and then avoiding alcohol and smoking and high caffeine drinks. The high caffeine will just cause you to be dehydrated, and keeping up with some sweets or sweet drinks for some added energy. And then if the shivering cannot be stopped, seeking immediate shelter, because at that point, that person is experiencing extreme cold stress, and you need to just make sure that you get them to safety and get their body warmed. Here you will see a chart that I pulled up from OSHA that talks to you a little bit about work and the warm-up schedule for a 4-hour shift. And if you need this guidance, it is certainly out there online, but it gives you a little bit of an example of what the approximate temperature related to how many breaks should be scheduled for working in that environment. And then across the top, you can see what the wind does to that and how that impacts and adds to the equation. So I have some list of where you can find additional resources. Ohio State Extension, Ohio Line is a great resource for questions, and then going to the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. They have lots of workplace safety topics and health topics, and you can print off posters for the workplace. They have numerous podcasts. The CDC has information that you can use in the workplace as well, infographics that can be posted, quick topics, PSAs that you can share with your workers. So there's lots of resources out there for where you can go get information. So I will open it up to what additional questions. I don't know if I've seen any populate in the chat. If anyone has questions, and I'll leave you with our website at agsafety.osu.edu.
Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's funny because I think today's supposed to be close to 60. So it's fitting that this topic today and the weather we're going to have. So for those who live in Ohio for any part of time, understands that today will be 60 and tomorrow will be in the teens. So it's important that we do acclimate to our bodies, give them time to acclimate to the weather. Both going into winter and then even going into summer, our bodies need time to adjust to those temperatures. As we get older, that adjustment period takes a little bit longer. Sometimes we don't really ever adjust. So that's why we try to move to Florida or warmer climates. So I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Lisa. However, a question was asked if you would be able to share your presentation. We typically we'll put them up on the website for the members to view if they need to view them.
So I am happy to share the information that I have put together for this. What I ask, when you say you put them up on the website, is it a downloadable format that anybody can just go out and download? Because what we don't make the practice of doing at Ohio State is sharing our slides so that they can be downloaded with our logos and everything, so that someone else could just utilize, like if they're on the web and somebody can just print them off. Yes, for reference, I'm happy to do that. But if you post them, is there do you have a restricted group that sees them, or can you send them, or can you send them out internally instead? Just
yes, we
email?
can do that. We can send it to the members here.
Okay.
If you'll send them to Nancy,
Okay.
she will send them out to the members, and then they'll be the only ones that will get it.
Okay. So it's just if you actually share them in PowerPoint format and somebody can just take them and use them as a representation of another organization, that's not that helpful because we lose any control over what and how they're used. So
Yeah. Oh, I understand that. Yep. Okay, great. I don't see more questions coming.
While you're
Jim, you have one?
Justin. Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just kind of curious. Do you recommend, Lisa, whether people have written policies on this? I always find that policies kind of drive behavior if they also have training, so people are aware of the policies and make sure they, in particular, I think of in terms of like supervisors, making sure they're watching out for their workers, because those are the people that are going to more likely impact that. So.
yes, certainly. And you guys have a better sense of that. But, what we try to do is, I think policies always help anybody, and training helps anybody, because just, having at the beginning of a cold spell or cold stretch, kind of a tailgate chat with your employees about these types of things, all of that education and reminders is always helpful in the safety realm. Again, I work with largely a farming population, and it is many times hard to get farmers to do written policies because there isn't a requirement for them. So, and they have, a lot of different things to handle and don't have as large a workforce. So just, talking with them about just the need to share safety messages with their employees and their family members. So anytime you can have a policy in place, it goes back to having something that you can point to that can show folks, look, we want this, and it also helps for employees, because then they know what the expectation is. And if, you have laid out that you're going to protect your workers by having X amount of breaks, or we're going to handle this type of weather this way, then they know what that expectation is, and it keeps them safe too, because there's a mutual agreement on safety, and it creates a safety culture. So I think that's always good to have policy and education.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm going to mention that we do have safety talks available to folks, and I'm going to put the link in there. And one of them is for cold weather, exactly to kind of lead that discussion on the toolbox talks, that sort of thing. So thanks.
Good. You know, there's a lot of resources out there. I know with the weather, OSHA's got apps now. You can get an app that will monitor your weather and monitor the heat index all the way to wind chills, stuff like that, what to do. So lots of resources out there for anyone that is involved in weather, cold weather climates. So Elisa, I greatly appreciate your time today. I thank you very much for traveling to our Safety Council virtually. So thank you very much for your message.
Thank you for having me.
Just a quick little updates or just last little reminders to everyone that there will be a survey at the end of this. It will be sent out to you guys. Just kind of let us know how we're doing, any kind of other speakers or topics that you would like to see for 2022. We're currently working on our speakers for 2022. I think we've got the first 6 months for the most part nailed down. I'm excited that in February we're not getting Kim Montgomery. However, we're getting another representative from his office. I think by February the whole COVID thing should be maybe make some motion, a little bit more motion with the whole thing with COVID. So we'd like to be able to get their take on it. And then we're going to follow that meeting up in March with an attorney to discuss kind of what laws are out there, how do we handle what COVID is or what the OSHA is trying to enforce. So I'm kind of excited for February and March. So please, if you're available, please call in on that one. I know that I'm pretty excited for that as well. So other than that, I know Christmas is around the corner, the holiday season. So please, everyone, stay safe, stay warm, as it will get cold, especially by the time we meet again next month. So everyone enjoy the holiday break and have a happy New Year's, and we'll see everyone next year.